Begin tonight with Cenk Uygur, founder and host of the Young Turks, and Steve Cortes, senior campaign advisor to President Trump's 2020 campaign. Gentlemen, good to see both of you. Interestingly enough, as I've researched your positions on this, I see that you both sort of agree with this or like this for different reasons. But Steve, I'm going to start with you. Price increases, inflation, killed Joe Biden's presidency. And more importantly, as soon as it started, he lost all of his political capital and power.
Right.
These tariffs are going to bring price increases, unquestionably. Why does that same rule not apply to Donald Trump?
Well, Leland, I don't accept your premise that it's unquestionable because American production can be efficient enough and productivity can rise enough here in the United States that longer-term prices do not need to rise. Look, the reality is...
Hold on one second. You just said longer term. We can all agree that in the short term, prices are going to rise. We just can look back to the last time we went through this with President Trump, raised tariffs on washing machines. Washing machines and dryers went up 15, 17%. I mean, it's just the way we can argue that it's worth it, but let's not fool ourselves.
Well, listen, it is likely in the near term that they will rise, but it's by no means certain. But what is certain is that in this country, working class citizens have been disenfranchised and abused for decades. And primarily, it's by two factors. Number one, constant offshoring of production overseas. Number two, totally unsustainable debt. Well, tariffs at the same time solve both of those problems by compelling manufacturing and production to come back to this country, onshoring, and by providing badly needed funds to address the deficit. So for me, this is the ultimate pro-working class reform agenda that is so badly needed. And it's the reason, by the way, why populism is so ascendant both on the left and the right in this country, is because middle-class people know that their standard of living has been declining ever since globalism became the primary agenda of Washington, D.C.
All right, Cenk, I promised Cuomo a few minutes ago that you guys were going to agree, so don't make a liar out of me. But my question to you on this is, when prices rise in the short term, the people it hurts the most are the working class, who you continue, Cenk, and I think very rightly, to champion and say Democrats need to reach out to. So is that sort of the coming fight for Democrats, is to be against Donald Trump's tariffs?
Yeah, so let's be nuanced here because it needs it. So if you say tariffs don't work at all, that's not right, right? And there are places where tariffs make some sense. And there's two different things that you can accomplish with tariffs. One is a negotiating tactic, as you mentioned, and Trump actually does use that fairly well from time to time. He threatened it with Canada and Mexico. We got some small but important concessions on stopping fentanyl, stopping the flow of immigration, illegal immigration from Mexico, et cetera. So if you want to use it that way, that makes sense. And the reason why you've seen me be positive about tariffs sometimes is because reciprocal tariffs as a negotiating tactic also makes sense. So if China's going to put 12% on tariff on us, we put a 12% tariff on them, whether it's washing machines, cars, or otherwise, right? The other reason that you do it is to build up your manufacturing base over a long period of time. So but when I look at what Trump is doing right now, I don't think it's going to work. So I don't think that the Democrats should be against tariffs in general because they can be executed right, but they should be against these tariffs. So this idea that the prices are not going to go up is magical thinking. Of course they're going to go up because, first of all, there's no such thing as an American car company. The car companies that we call American, GM, Ford, et cetera, they only make parts of their cars here, and they bring in parts from all across the world. So even the American car prices are going to rise. And then obviously Japanese cars, South Korean cars, et cetera, they will all rise in prices significantly. So there's no way to avoid that. And so if you're using it as a temporary negotiating tactic, fine. Okay, but it looks like now he's actually moving to try to create a manufacturing base here. But that would take years. And there's no way that Donald Trump is going to have the fortitude and the consistency to be able to execute that and to be able to withstand the economic pain for 2-3 years of his presidency to build that manufacturing base.
2 or 3 years of economic pain, a presidency is over. Because once you lose the economy, you lose all of your political strength and political capital. Steve, there's something deeper here, and I think Cenk makes a good point, as did Cuomo's guest earlier. that we keep hearing different things from the White House. At one point, these tariffs are only going to be a negotiating tactic in order to get better deals. Then they're only going to be around for a very short period of time for more negotiation while there's onshoring and while there's all this investment. And some of those companies might get big breaks on the tariffs. So if you agree to build a car company here before a car plant here before it's built, there's no tariffs. Then all of a sudden we hear from Peter Navarro that no, these tariffs are going to be around forever and we're going to bring in $6 trillion. Do they have a plan?
So, Leland, you bring up a really important point here because I do believe in protectionism. Okay, that is not a bad word, but also another P word, which is predictability. Financial markets, executives, the American public need predictability. So I believe, for example, that tariffs are not just a negotiating ploy. No, tariffs should be permanent. And there's reporting out today from the Washington Post, we'll see if it's accurate, that we're talking, that the White House is now talking about a 20% across the board tariff. That makes enormous sense.
Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.